point. I always tend to remind those who attend these practices that my voice is secondary. And so, if you prefer a silent meditation, just feel free to mute my voice or your speakers and just know that you're with other like minded beings, tapping into the present moment, because that's all this practice is about. And even though I will be using the bell occasionally, I know last week a few of you mentioned that it wasn't very clear on the audio, but please excuse that just in case it's not that clear. Try to ring the imaginary bell in your mind. And why do we hold these practices? It's really just to remind ourselves that there are others like us all around the world. Because the reality of it is that in our day to day life, we're surrounded by family, friends, work colleagues. And more often than not, these contemplations, these practices are practices that we can share with very few people. Very few people would appreciate why we sit down for an hour with our eyes closed, why we contemplate on kindness and compassion and so much more. And so, this little group, it's really about just reminding us that there are so many others like us all around the world. And of course, there's only there's a group of 12 of us today, but there are people all around the world who are tapping into the present moment in this exact moment. Some are monks, some are nuns, some are artists, some are musicians and scientists. And it goes on, children, babies, wild animals, plants. And this little virtual room that we have is our opportunity to join in the party, the present moment, the celebration of the present moment. And each time I lead a retreat here in Assisi, I discover something new. And in one of the most recent retreats where Peggy, we just met, or rather you just met, she showed me a little boat that's parked next to the main basilica in Assisi, which I never noticed before. And it's a boat that has been a part of a permanent exhibition in a little green spot next to the cathedral. And it was a boat that was used to transport refugees, a boat that refugees had used to cross the seas around Italy to arrive in Europe. fleeing persecution and difficulties and all the rest. And because I was also over this past week reading a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, himself a refugee from Vietnam, I thought I'd like to begin this today's practice by just contemplating on some of the words that he has spoken. Because as it's quite clear that many of us in our home environments, we're surrounded by, as I mentioned a few moments ago, people who don't really understand what this practice is about, why we go on retreats, why we spend time in places of contemplation. And Thich Nhat Hanh, he used the metaphor of refugees on boats because he worked a lot in his early years helping and supporting refugees who were fleeing Vietnam on tiny little boats across rough seas. And what he said was that in a boat, sometimes the waters would get very choppy. Just like in our world, he used the boat to represent the world in which we live in, our home environments sometimes, our work environments, where we're on a boat with others and then the waves get choppy, times get challenging, the storms begin brewing. And what this beautiful monk, what his observance was that when the waves begin to get larger and larger, all it would take is for one person to begin panicking, becoming fearful, and that fear would spread. The panic would spread across the boat, and people would start moving around and becoming agitated and fearful and terrified, and that would cause the boat to capsize. But in the same way, he also spoke about how many boats he would come across one single individual who had the ability to keep calm and cool and still. And that stillness, that confidence, that calmness would spread across the boat. And all of the other passengers would keep their cool, keep their heads. And no matter how big the waves were, they would make it through and arrive in whatever their destination was. And so, no matter what your home environment is like, no matter what your working environment is like, no matter how chaotic the city in which you live in is like, let us reflect on this simple teaching on how this practice is our way of grounding and anchoring ourselves so that when we move with our families, when we move with our loved ones and our friends, Even as we move through the supermarket aisles and the busy streets and the crowded trains, this calmness and stillness and kindness and compassion that is the very essence of who we are will spread to those around us, through those around us. But it begins in one place, here. It begins with one person, me, you. Perhaps we can begin the first bell, which I hope you can hear. The first bell is so that we might release our past. You can just take in a deep breath. Let this breath represent a new beginning and a new start. Breathing out slowly and gently, releasing everything that happened today and yesterday and the past few days and weeks and months and years. In fact, whatever the past means to you. And now a second bell so that you may release the future, which means all of those imaginings, expectations, anticipations, concerns and worries and anxieties. Breathing in the lightness of the present moment. Breathing out all of that which we mentioned, the anxieties and the worries about the future, simply because you know that you have been through, all of us, we've been through challenging times. Sometimes through obstacles which we did not ever think we would make it through. But here we are, sharing a beautiful practice, sharing the present moment with like-minded practitioners. So maybe there is no need to hold on to the future. Here's another bell to release it, whatever's left of it. And then taking a much deeper breath in, breathing in this breath and this moment. Breathing out as slowly and as gently as you can. And the key to the practice of breath awareness lies in the sensations behind every breath that flows in and then out. Why don't we why don't we practice this together? So when you breathe in, see if you can focus on the temperature of the air, which is probably indicative of the room that you're in, the temperature of the room that you're in. You can feel the air flowing in through the rims of your nostrils, making its way up the nasal passage and then through the bend. Notice those little things like the direction. Notice how you can tell what direction the air is flowing. And when you breathe out, the temperature again, which becomes so much more vivid, indicative of the life that is flowing through your veins and your lungs and your body, that transforms that cool and crisp air that you breathed in into something so much more warm, humid, filled with water droplets that are so fine that they cannot be seen, but they can be experienced. And we use the breath because you can't breathe for later on. And you can't breathe for yesterday. You can only breathe for this moment. You can experience its rhythm, like the waves gently washing up against a beach. And like the waves on the beach, you no longer need to control your breath. Just observe it. Just breathe comfortably, but with a higher level of awareness than a few moments ago. You can be playful. We spoke about this practice being about compassion. What does compassion mean to you? Whatever it means to you, breathe with every breath that you take in. Breathe in compassion. Compassion for yourself, which takes the form of a recognition of how beautiful and perfect you are. And when you hear words such as this, describing you as perfect, as beautiful, as kind and compassionate, and if you notice any thoughts to the contrary, those are thoughts that you can release as you breathe out. For those they are simply thoughts that have been programmed through the communities and the societies that you were brought up in. Breathing in compassion. Because as you become more compassionate towards yourself, you also become more compassionate to those around you. Because as you feel the compassion for yourself, you forgive yourself for not being tall enough, or rich enough, or producing all of those A's, or whatever it is the conditions are that you sometimes hold yourself up against. Compassion, just knowing that the light that surrounds us is a light that falls equally upon all. This light of compassion and kindness that is unconditional. Breathing in kindness, and whatever kindness means to you. Because this kindness takes the form of your breath. It embraces you not only from the space and air that surrounds you, but from within. Within your lungs and your veins and your arteries, and a complete acceptance. A kindness. What does kindness do? It brings harmony and balance. And as we breathe in this kindness and this compassion, this This kindness and compassion, it begins to move through the cells of your body, allowing the cells of your body to be in harmony with each other, to be at peace with each other, no longer in conflict, in ease, as opposed to dis-ease. which means you breathe in good health or healing energies. Good is subjective. Let the process of balancing and healing begin, no matter where our bodies may be at this point. Because as we began the practice with the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, it all begins here and now with us. Because as we find peace within ourselves, if you can imagine every cell within your body as being representative of the billions of individuals that inhabit this planet, and the trillions of different organisms, plant life, animal life, the planet itself with its minerals, the clouds in the sky, they all begin to find peace. Peace with each other, peace, peace, and more peace. As we become the still one, the steady one, as the boat begins to stabilize and stop its rocking and rolling, as we sit, as we breathe in awareness of this present moment, is there anything about this present moment that you do not like? That's not a bad thing. Let us use anything about the present moment that you do not like as a tool in our practice. Because again, back to the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, he reminds us that in practice, we develop the ability to distinguish between two types of suffering. That's what he calls it, suffering. He refers to them as the big suffering and the little suffering. Now, the little suffering, it's that it might be the dog that's barking right now that you wish was quiet. It might be the loud footsteps that you can hear from the apartment above you. It could be the car alarm. It could be a loud street party going on outside your window because of the festivities over the past few days. Little sufferings. He always reminds us, don't let the little sufferings drain you. Practice with them. The little sufferings, they may even take the form of a particular sensation that you may be experiencing within your body. Of course, a sensation that you might be able to change by simply shifting your position or your balance or having a sip of water. Please do that if that's something that will help your body. It might even be the movement of your mind. You might be struggling with your mind because of something that happened earlier on today or in some earlier part of your history. Sometimes Thich Nhat Hanh, he would refer to that as a little suffering because it's, according to him, it is the nature of the mind to think, to move. He refers to teachers such as the Buddha or Christ or Muhammad or Nanak, and he said they all had their sufferings, body ailments, disciples or family members who would get ill and very often die. But he spoke about the ability to allow, beginning with the little suffering. In a way, conserving our energies, contemplating, so that when the big sufferings, when the larger sufferings arrived, which touches every single one of us, because of the changing nature of the world, we might be more stable, more anchored, more grounded. The boat will rock. The wave will move you. And this is why we sit and breathe and practice allowing the little sufferings, dancing with them, allowing them, sometimes even smiling at them, recognizing them for the wonderful tools that they truly are. Is there anything about your present moment that you are pushing against? You can talk to it. I see you. I acknowledge you. I'm not going to pretend that you're not there. I acknowledge. And then I give you permission to be exactly as you are. Can you notice how much lighter you feel when you begin to allow the thought about the thing, when you begin to allow the sensation or the thing or the sound, because when you allow, you stop moving with that thing that you are allowing. You become the stillness and the silence and the quietness. While that thing emerges, it takes its form and it lingers, but it's so much like a cloud because it appears, it stays briefly, and then it disappears. Because you are gradually becoming the unchanging constant, the kindness and the compassion and the unconditional love and the light of wisdom that understands the changing nature of the world, how the clouds take different formations and different shapes, but always temporarily, always moving, always shifting. Now, with the ringing of the next bell, if you can hear it, just give your bodies a stretch, a move before we move into the second part of the practice. But if you can, try to bring a sense of continuity to the practice by continuing to be aware of the stretch, of the movement, of the taste of water, and of any sense of relief that your body gets as a result of this movement. Now, here in the Northern Hemisphere, many of us are experiencing this season called spring, where everything begins to bustle back into life, especially the plant life. And as a result of the plant life, all other forms of life, from the migrating birds to the insects and the squirrels, So let's play with this. Let's bring into our mind's eye. Let's use a tree as the focus of our practice. Because as we all know, this planet, it gives to us unconditionally, expecting nothing back in return. It does not complain about anything that we are doing to it. But it is the changes that are occurring in the planet, they will affect us. Not so much the planet, our ability to survive in this planet, the ability of our children and our grandchildren and the generations to come. And so we use nature as a part of our practice to see how nature speaks to us, how much nature can teach us, how much nature gives to us. And so today we will listen to the tree, we will listen to what the tree has to say. So bring into your mind's eye your favorite tree. And if you don't have a favorite tree, then just imagine a tree from a book or a postcard that you might have seen. But we want it to be a tree that has been around for a very long time. Because we want to have as much in common with the tree as possible. And no matter how old this tree that you have in your mind's eye is, remember that you have been here far longer. For you have no beginning, you will never have an end. We are eternal beings. That is the basis of this practice, the essence, the foundation, the core of this practice. And so in your mind's eye, you see this tree it has a trunk that has been through so much. It is a tree that has roots that dig deep into the crust of the earth through many layers of soil, sometimes even developing the ability to move beyond gravity. Now, with every breath, your breath that you have become quite familiar with, visualize your breath moving in through your nostrils and through your trunk and and through the roots. You can visualize this breath as a light, because it is the light that this tree transforms into its food through its leaves. And so it is the light of your breath that moves in through your nostrils and down through your trunk and deep down into the earth underneath you. That truly is a part of who you are. It is because every food that you consume has the light of the sun within it. It has the minerals from the earth within it. It has the water from the sources within the earth within it. And so you do not even have to imagine it because you are a part of this earth. And let every breath that you take in remind you of this connection that you have to the earth. You don't even have to thank the earth because the earth is a part of you and expects no thanks. It is a part of you. You are a part of it. Lower your center of gravity deep into the earth with every breath that you take in. Now give your attention to your thoughts, which continue to move and dance. But in this visualization, your thoughts are like the breeze that blows through the branches of this tree. Your state of allowing is the dance that you do when the breeze brushes through your branches. You sway, you allow, you rock, occasionally creaking, especially when the winds grow strong and the storms arrive. And then you contemplate on those moments in your life where there were tears and fears and angers and frustrations and anxieties. And you recognize that those were the moments when you believed yourself to be the wind and the mist and the clouds and the storms and the blizzards mistakenly. But now, with every breath that you take in and release, you are reminded of your true nature. With every breath that you take in, you even transport your awareness from the branches which dance and move to the trunk, which is steady and still. Try to do this by becoming aware of your breath, but the breathing that occurs through the stomach. The stomach, which is at the core of your trunk. How, as you breathe in, the stomach wall rises. How, as you breathe out, the stomach wall falls. How, as you breathe in, the insides of your stomach, they balloon. And then contract as you exhale. Relax your upper body. Which means releasing the need to be rigid, allowing the branches to be flexible and allowing. Feeling the way in which the trunk of your body supports you. Holds your spinal column upright. No matter how strong the winds are, no matter how violent the storms are, stay with the trunk. Stay within the trunk, breathing comfortably, the way only you know how. And you notice when the storms pass and there is stillness. And you notice those moments where there is a gentle breeze. And you notice the changes and the changes and the changes, because it is the nature of the wind to blow or be still. Because it is the nature of the mind to move or be still. And it is the nature of the tree to not judge one as better than the other. And you are the tree. It is the nature of the tree to not see itself as superior to even a single leaf. For it recognizes that every single leaf on its body sustains it, absorbs the sunlight, transforming the sunlight through the process called photosynthesis into the foods that are then transported into every cell that makes up this magnificent tree, from the tips of the branch to the deepest root. It does not see the trunk as being more important than the leaf. It has no judgment, just pure appreciation, compassion, kindness, oneness, awareness, stillness. And when the moment arrives to release the leaves after summer, in the season of autumn or fall, she releases, she allows the change, embracing every moment, even appreciating the very fact that every leaf falls to the ground, becoming organic matter that then gets absorbed through the roots, back into the trunk, inseparable, complete, at one. Watch how the day turns into night and the night into day. Observe the changing seasons and the changing weather patterns. But also witness your ability to be here, now, witnessing and allowing, embracing in compassion and kindness. Everything that you experience in this moment. No good, no bad. No tall, no short. No fair, no dark. Just perfection and completion. Feel the way in which you've steadied the boat. And now, with the next ringing of the bell, we will bring our short practice to a very gentle and mindful close. But we will allow the boat, this journey called life, to resume. We will call it the beginning of the practice. And we will invite those around us to join us in the boat. With every breath that we take, with every step that we take, with every word that we speak, and every silence, every moment of silence that we observe. Creating little pockets of silence, stillness, compassion, kindness, and wisdom. Right here and right now.